Hey peeps, hope you're well. I'm here to talk about this. And I'm just going to get right into it today. No preamble, no meandering thoughts. And I know you're used to those, but I'm going to get right into it. But before I do that, really quickly, because I do love Aphex Twin, and because Aphex Twin did remix Saint Etienne in the past, in fact, I think there's some of Aphex Twin's best remixes he ever did. I just picked this up. This came in the mail last week. Jockey Slut put this together. Jockey Slut has come back. They're calling themselves Disco Pogo now. That was their tagline back in the 90s when they were a magazine. It was Disco Pogo for punks and pumps. So they're calling themselves Disco Pogo now, but back in the 90s, Jockey Slut was the greatest music magazine on the planet, in my opinion. They were just the best. And Richard James did a number of interviews with Jockey Slut, and they compile all of those interviews here. And then there's some new commentary, like they pull out some people that know him and have worked with him and were there in the beginning, like Tom Middleton is in here talking about Aphex. Mike Paradinas is in here. So they talk to people that were there that know Aphex. But as you know, I'm a big Aphex Twin fan, and it's cool to see. I have all of these interviews from Jockey Slut. I I get a little bored with the hero worship, like treating a Richard James like he's some otherworldly genius. I get a little bored with that. There is a lot of that in here. People are just kind of falling over themselves to talk about how they love Aphex and what a genius he is. So that gets a little boring, but I like having all of his interviews compiled here. I already have all the original interviews and all those original Jockey Sluts. I have every issue of Jockey Slut ever made. I have them all. So, but it's cool to have them all in a book interspersed with new interviews and new conversations. It's pretty cool. They're just honoring Aphex, really. Talks about his history. They talk about how they feel about him. They put the interview, they put an interview in there, and yeah, it's fun. Anyway, this came up, and Aphex Twin was part of Saint Etienne's history. He did a couple of remixes for them that are some of Aphex's best work, I think. I think some of Aphex's best work in general are his remixes. He hasn't done a remix in years. It's been forever, but in the 90s, he was pretty busy doing them. And yeah. So anyway, they are part of this band's history a little bit, and so I thought, hey, it's a good chance to bring that up. So anyway, getting back to the new Saint Etienne album, The Night. I'm really enjoying this record. Saint Etienne's one of those bands that I have absolutely loved for well over 3 decades. I've been there since the beginning, man. Since those initial 12 inches they put out on Heavenly, like the World Cup theme and Only Love Can Break Your Heart. I mean, I've been there since the very beginning. So following these guys over the years has been fun. I really love Saint Etienne because you can tell they love music. Like to them, music isn't making albums in 12 inches and making music isn't something they do for a job. Like it is their living, but you always get the sense with these guys like music is its own life sustaining force. It's they make music because they couldn't do anything else. It's what they want to do. It's what they're good at, and it's what their lifeblood is. It's making music. And that's what I love about these guys. All of their albums sound a little different. They're always steeped in pop. They're a pop band, but they do every once in a while put out an album that sounds very different than anything else they've ever done. And this is one of those instances, I think, in my opinion. Some of you might not agree, but this new album, The Night, is very different for them. And I really like it. I picked this up a few weeks ago, and I've listened to this a number of times, and it's really, really growing on me, like most albums from this band. Some albums hit me from this band, some albums hit me right away. I feel them right away. I have a strong reaction to them right away, almost always positive. Sometimes they put out albums that take a few listens to really hit me, and this is one of those. And now that it's hit me, it's really kind of getting under my skin in a good way. I mean that in a positive way. This album, in again, this is just an opinion. This is my personal take, but this album's almost like pure ambient. Like you don't hear any beats on this thing at all. I mean, a little bit, but if ever this band had put out an ambient album, a purely ambient album, this is it. If you're into ambient music, and I mean that in the most traditional term, you're gonna love this album. There's a lot to love about this. It still sounds like them. Sarah Cracknell's still there. You hear her voice, but musically it's different. Not altogether different. I mean, they have moments of ambience in their catalog, obviously, but never like a full album of it. And that's what you're getting here. And you know, I'm not going to go through every track, but there are several tracks. They're all pretty brief. It's a pretty brief album. You get 14 tracks on here. Yeah, you get 7 tracks per side. And the album's only 40, maybe 45 minutes long. So it's not a very long album. The tracks are pretty short. But what they do is kind of flow together as one art piece. And it's really good. I know, Saint Etienne fans, you've already picked this up and listened to it, obviously. But if you're on the fence about this, maybe you're on the fence about the band in general. Maybe you only listen to certain albums of theirs, or you only like certain albums of theirs. Like maybe So Tough is your favorite, like the case with me. That is my favorite album from these guys. Maybe Tiger Bay is your favorite. Who knows what your favorite is? But check this out if you haven't. I highly recommend picking this up. It is, for lack of a better term and way to describe it, and as most of you who watch my channel know, I don't like holding people's hands through every second of a piece of music. I feel like you just need to experience it yourself. But if I were to compare this to any genre out there, it would be ambient. It doesn't really sound like a lot of other bands that I've heard recently. It's a pretty arresting album. Not what I was expecting, and I love that. I love listening, especially to a band that's been around for over 3 decades. You kind of, with this band at least, you tend to kind of have an expectation, like, okay, maybe I know what this is going to sound like before I even listen to it. I felt that way a little bit. I try to reserve those unfair expectations from music because it only stands to disappoint me when I listen to it. But with this, I was very happy. I was like, wow, this is going in a different direction that I wasn't expecting, and it sounds really good. I think a lot of people will think this is a dark album, and for this band, it probably is. But to me, it's in a lot of ways, it's just Saint Etienne getting on with what they do, getting on with business as usual, just loving music. And that's going to lead me to another album I'm going to talk about briefly. But again, what I love about this band is like you can't really pigeonhole them. Every time they do something that's a little different. It's always steeped in pop. But this album is arguably one of the most different, challenging albums they've ever put out. And I think it's all the better for it. If you like ambient music and you like this band, and you haven't heard this yet, check it out. And I'd be interested to hear some other thoughts from people if you are a fan of this band, and if you are or you're not a fan of ambient music, what you think about this. I have a feeling that most people who like Saint Etienne like all kinds of music. You have to like this band. You can't just like pop music. You have to like it all. This band is very in tune with all kinds of different stuff. And here, they're in tune with ambient music, which I love. I love this cover too. That the album is pretty stark sounding, and this cover is pretty stark. You have very strategically placed items, but only a few items upon a kind of a plain white and then a blue background. It's just a very stark, even ambient cover. The cover lends itself well to the music that is contained herein. And this is I don't know if this is a UK. I think this is a UK press. I bought this from Juno. It was the only version they had. It is on funky colored wax. I'm sure it's out on black vinyl. I'll show you the record here in a minute. Here's the inner sleeve. It's kind of nice glossy sleeve. Get some credits here. Kind of a cool image there. And then here's the very funky colored wax you get. There you go. I don't know what they call this variant. I don't know what the color is. It's kind of like an aquamarine sea green, marble-ish, as you can see. And I think this is picking it up pretty well. In person, it's kind of like a greenish blue with flecks of black and white. The pressing's okay. In my opinion, Heavenly isn't great about vinyl pressings. I don't know, they kind of do a lazy job of it, I think. This one sounds all right. It's out on Apple Music, so if you need to download it there, or upload it, whatever, get it into your cloud system, you can get it there. You don't need to go buy this. But because I have every record these guys have ever put out, albums, 12 inches, you name it, I have it all, I thought, well, I got to pick this up. I can't have a hole in my collection. I mean, why would I do that? So I quickly want to talk about this too. This is a recent compilation that Bob Stanley and Pete Wiggs put out. These two are in St. Etienne, obviously. This is called State of the Union, The American Dream in Crisis, 1967 and 1973. This is on Ace Records. These two have put out a number of compilations on this label that are all excellent, man. Excellent. I have them all. And they put out compilations that cover like, old Americana like this, folk and rock music. They do techno pop. They have a compilation called Fell from the Sun, which is my personal favorite, which is centered around like early 90s UK Balearic house music. They have, I think it's called Tears of Technology, which is focused on like 70s and 80s, like electro pop, techno pop, early techno pop music. I mean, they have all these different compilations that cover all kinds of different genres of music. And I think anybody who's a fan of Saint Etienne picks these up because you hear all these influences in their music. And this is the most recent compilation. I just wanted to briefly show this because it is excellent. And these pressings are always really nice on Ace. They're always gatefold sleeves. If I could get this open, here we go. You get these gatefold sleeves. You get a bunch of text. They show some old album covers of the music that they're including. On here, you get stuff like Elvis Presley, Dion, Frank Sinatra, the Beach Boys, Bing Crosby, the Everly Brothers, Eartha Kitt, Roy Orbison, Mel Torme, Louis Armstrong. It's a classic collection of pre, as you can see, like pre heavy metal, hard rock American music, like that early kind of, Beatles era and post Beatles era style rock and roll pop music, American rock and roll music trying to find its footing, kind of a lost era for rock and roll music in a lot of ways. Great compilation, I think. And I think I think they always release these on different colored. Yeah, here's another. This is kind of a white with bluish tint to it. I think these come out on black vinyl as well, but again, this was the one that Juno had, and I recently made a Juno order. So anyway, I wanted to hold this up because I love it. And everything Stanley and Wiggs put out on Ace Records, these compilations, you want to pick those up. I felt like that compilation is a good supporting device and backdrop for this. You should get both. Because why wouldn't you? If you're a Saint Etienne fan, you just should. This is a really cool album. Check it out. Let me know what you think about this if you haven't heard it. Go listen to it and leave a comment and let me know what you think. Love this band. I think this is one of their most challenging albums they've ever put out. I really love it. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.